When you think about China's Three Kingdoms period, you usually think of brilliant strategists or ambitious warlords. But some names are remembered for something else entirely, for raw, absolute courage. And today, we're talking about maybe the best example of that, Dian Wei.
See, this isn't just a story about a great warrior. It's the story of how a man, in his very last moments, became an actual living fortress, a wall made of nothing but loyalty and pure, stubborn will.
So let's set the scene. We're going back to the year 1970 AD to a place called Wancheng. Imagine it's the middle of the night, and it's suddenly shattered by the sounds of betrayal. An ambush is sprung, and one of the most powerful warlords in China is about to die.
And this is the real problem the attacking army ran into that night. To get to their target, they first had to solve an impossible puzzle. How do you kill a man who simply refuses to fall?
The whole camp just erupts in chaos. The warlord, Cao Cao, is caught completely by surprise. He's been betrayed by a general he thought was an ally, and now enemy soldiers are just flooding the camp. For a minute there, it really looks like it's all over.
But then, the main thrust of the attack, the one aimed right at the front gate to cut off any escape, just stops. It slams to a dead halt. And it hasn't hit a wall of shields or a line of spearmen, it's hit one single person.
So, who was this guy? How could one man stop an army? To really get what happened at that gate, you have to understand the legend that was Dian Wei.
Dian Wei was Cao Cao's personal bodyguard, and I don't mean he just stood around looking tough. He was the last line of defense, a man known for two things above all else, almost superhuman strength, and a loyalty so intense it was basically a force of nature.
Okay, so let's try to put his strength into perspective. His weapons of choice were a pair of twin halberds. Together, they weighed 80 jin. That translates to almost 90 pounds, or 40 kilograms. Seriously, just take a second and imagine trying to fight with 90 pounds of steel. It's just on another level. And this is how his own lord, Cao Cao, saw him. After watching him in action, Cao Cao nicknamed him Eli. Now, Eli was a warrior from ancient mythology who is famous for his monstrous strength. So this wasn't just a compliment. It was Cao Cao saying, this guy's power is the stuff of legends. And believe me, he earned that reputation. He'd once cut a path for Cao Cao to escape from the terrifying Lu Bu. In another fight, he was supposedly shot with more than a dozen arrows and didn't take a single step back. He wasn't like a shield, he was a shield.
All right, so now that we know who we're dealing with, let's go back to that fiery, chaotic night at Wancheng. The enemy is pouring in, and the legend of Dian Wei is about to face its final, bloody test.
And right away, there's a huge problem. The conspirators were clever. Before the attack, they had an agent get Dian Wei drunk and steal his signature weapons. Those massive 90-pound halberds? Gone. He's been disarmed before the fight even begins.
But here's the thing. A disarmed Dian Wei is still Dian Wei. He doesn't hesitate for a second. He just rushes into the attackers, literally rips the swords from their hands, and starts killing them with their own weapons. He's holding that narrow gateway, a whirlwind of stolen steel.
And this is where the story goes from legendary to just insane. The swords he's using are cheap, and they can't handle the power of his swings. They just shatter. So what does he do? In an act of just pure, raw desperation, he grabs two enemy soldiers by their legs and starts using their bodies as giant, gruesome clubs, smashing a path through their friends.
The whole time, the enemy is just swarming him, stabbing him with spears, slashing him with swords. He's taking dozens of horrible wounds. He's bleeding from everywhere, but his feet are planted. He's not moving from that gateway. He will not fall.
Finally, with his life fading away, he gathers every last bit of strength he has. He lets out this one final, huge roar, and he hurls the bodies he's holding into the charging soldiers, killing a few more even as he's dying. He dies on his feet, eyes wide open, still glaring at the enemy. And you know what? He did it. His impossible stand bought the time that was needed. As long as he was alive, that main enemy force could not get through that gate. He held the line.
So, Dian Wei's death wasn't just some tragic, heroic moment. It was a tactical move. It was an exchange that would completely change the future of the entire war.
On the surface, the trade was simple. One life for another. But the value of that trade was immense. See, at this point, Cao Cao wasn't the powerhouse he would become. If he died at Wancheng, his whole faction probably would have collapsed. His main rival would have just walked in and taken over everything. So Dian Wei didn't just save a man, he saved an entire budding empire. Every victory Cao Cao won after that day was built on the foundation of what Dian Wei did in that bloody gateway.
When Cao Cao finally escaped, he found out that he'd lost his oldest son and his nephew in the ambush. But his reaction says it all. The story goes that he said, "I have lost my son, I have lost my nephew, but I weep only for Dian Wei." That tells you just how much this man meant to him.
And that one final stand is what cemented Dian Wei's name in history forever. He became more than just a man, he became the very definition of the perfect guardian.
His entire legend really rests on these 4 pillars. You have his insane strength, a courage so deep he could face an army by himself, a loyalty that put his lord's life so far above his own, and just this absolute sense of duty. He was a human shield, and even in death, that shield never broke.
And that leaves us with a really interesting question. I mean, technically, Dian Wei lost the Battle of Wancheng. He died there. But his sacrifice made all of his lord's future victories possible. So what really makes a hero? Is it the battles they win, or is it the price they're willing to pay so that others can win?